Hi, I'm W. Dean Shook, and our friends at Buy Emergency Food is so confident that their prices can't be beat. They'll match any competitor's online prices of any product they offer. They've searched far and wide to find the most superior quality products available. Buy Emergency Food is 100% committed to providing these high-quality items at the best prices online. Sign up today at WDeanshook.com for their gourmet taste, easy storage, 25-year shelf life, nutritional information, water filtration, and a portable solar power. Come see why Buy Emergency Food is simply the best brands for providing the basic needs when disaster strikes. And they have free shipping on every order. Nothing's easier than their free shipping policy. That's right, 100% free shipping. Your emergency food is usually shipped within 3 business days. It's fast, effective, and free. Does it get any better than that? The food you need when disaster hits. Sign up today at WDeanshook.com. That's WDeanshook.com. All right, let me give you a little bit of history about this stuff. Thank you very much. This has been going on for a long time, and let me give you a quote from the Assistant U.S. Secretary of State at UNESCO in 1946. Now, UNESCO, in case you don't know, is the United Nations Education, Science, and Cultural Organization. Here's what William Benton said. As long as a child breathes the poisoned air of nationalism, education in world-mindedness can produce only perilous results. As we have pointed out, it's frequently the family that infects the child with extreme nationalism. Infects the child. The schools, therefore, use the means described to combat family attitudes that favor jingoism, that's nationalism. We shall presently recognize in nationalism the major obstacle to development of a world-mindedness. We are at the beginning of a long process of breaking down the walls of national sovereignty. We must be the pioneer. It's been the agenda since the 40s to break down sovereignty through the education system. Mr. Benton claiming that it's the family that poisons their children's minds with nationalism. Got to get rid of that sovereignty. Club of Rome, 1991. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. 1991, Club of Rome. This is proof, more proof, I should say, that global warming is a fabrication, man-made global warming. It goes on to say, but in designating them as the enemy, we fall into the trap of mistaking symptoms for causes. All of these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it's only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. Thank you so much, Club of Rome. What did Mikhail Gorbachev say about it? He said, we must speak more clearly about sexuality, contraception, about abortion, about values that control population, because the ecological crisis, in short, is the population crisis. Cut the population by 90%, and there aren't enough people left to do a great deal of ecological damage. What about Huxley? What did he say in 1946? He said there is, of course, no reason why the new totalitarians should resemble the old. Government by clubs and firing squads, by artificial famine, mass imprisonment, mass deportation, is not merely inhumane.
It's now demonstrably inefficient, and in an age of advanced technology, inefficiency is the sin against the Holy Ghost. He's quoting God. He did a lecture in 1959 where he named the population explosion. 1959. Let us ask ourselves what the practical alternatives are as we confront this problem of population growth. Problem of population growth. One alternative is to do nothing. In particular about it, and just let things go on as they are. The question is, are we going to restore the balance in a natural way, which is brutal and entirely anti-human way, or are we going to restore it in some intelligent, rational, and humane way? Try to increase production as much as possible, and at the same time try to reestablish the balance between birth rates and means less gruesome than those which were used by nature, by intelligent and human methods. They want to decrease population by intelligent and human methods. He says they are colossal difficulties in the way of implementing any large-scale policy of limitation of population, whereas death control is extremely easy under modern circumstances. Birth control is extremely difficult but effective. The reason is very simple. Death control. The control, for example, of infectious diseases can be accomplished by a handful of experts and a quite small labor force of unskilled person and requires a very small capital. Barry Commoner says this: there have been triage proposals that would condemn whole nations to death through some species of global neglect. There have been schemes for coercing people to curtail their fertility. By physical and legal means, there are ominous left who are unsuspecting. Now we're told we must curtail rather than extend our efforts to feed the hungry of the world. Where will it end? Testimony before a congressional committee. This was a testimony before Congress. There are some reports, for example, that some countries have been trying to construct something like an Ebola virus, and that would be a very dangerous phenomenon, to say the least. Alvin Toepfer has written about this in terms of some scientists in their laboratories trying to devise certain types of pathogens that would be ethnic specific so that they could just eliminate certain ethnic groups and races. And others are designed some sort of engineering, some sort of insect that can destroy specific crops. Others are engaging in an eco-type terrorism whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. Now, whether that's possible or not, what's scary about that is just that they want to try to do it. He said there are plenty of ingenuous minds out there that are at work finding ways which they can wreak terror upon other nations. It's real. And that's the reason why we have to intensify our efforts. That's why this is so important. And even people that you may know and love, Jacques Cousteau, here's what he said. In order to save the planet, it would be necessary to kill 350,000 people per day. Jacques Cousteau. In order to save the planet, it would be necessary to kill 350,000 people a day. These are people that suggesting that God created a world that could not sustain his people, that God did an inefficient job. He fell short. I think that's incredible. They have no God. They have no spirituality. Bertrand Russell, 1953, I do not pretend that birth control is the only way which population can be kept by increasing. War has been disappointing in this respect, but perhaps bacteriological war may prove more effective. Here's what he said. If a Black Death could be spread throughout the world once every generation, survivors could procreate freely without making the world, quote unquote, too full. The state of affairs might be somewhat unpleasant, but what of that? Really high-minded people are indifferent to happiness, especially other people's. There are three ways of securing a society that shall be stable in regard to population. The first is that of birth control. The second, that of infanticide, or really destructive wars. The third, that of a general misery, except for a powerful minority. That's to make everybody miserable except the elite. Henry Kissinger, the same guy, during the time of Richard Nixon's presidency, when Israel was about to be destroyed, we had the largest weapons and equipment movement in American history go to Israel to help save them from being destroyed. When that call came, when Israel asked for those armaments, said they would be destroyed if they didn't get them, what did Henry Kissinger say? He said he advised the president, don't do it. Let Israel bleed a little bit. Let Israel bleed a little bit. But here's what Henry Kissinger said in 1978. U.S. policy toward the third world should be one of depopulation. Rockefeller said in 2000, we are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the new world order. 2002. We wield over American political and economical institutions. Some even believe we're part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family as an internationalist and conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political structure. One world, if you will. If that's the change, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. From David Rockefeller, where he says, yes, that's what he's doing, and he's proud of it. By the way, David Rockefeller is the co-founder of the Trilateral Commission. He went on to say, we're grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications, whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promise of discretion for almost 40 years. 40 years. He said it would have been impossible for us to develop our plans for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during these years. But the world is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government. Thomas Ferguson, Latin American case officer for the State Department, Office of Population Affairs, who is now the U.S. State Department Office of Population Affairs. There's a single theme behind our work. We must reduce population levels. The Latin American case officer for the State Department of Population put that statement out in writing. He said either they, speaking of governments, do it our way through nice, clean methods, or they'll get the kind of mess that we have in El Salvador or Iran or Beirut. Population is a political problem. Once population is out of control, it requires authoritarian government, even fascism, to reduce it. The professionals, said Ferguson, aren't interested in lowering populations for humanitarian reasons. That sounds nice. We look at resources and environmental constraints,